Thank you for staying with Daybreak. We're getting into the final parts of the conversation on the bittersweet conversation, like Wahiga puts it, on the sugar industry. And we're wondering how to revive the sugar sector. We have a lot of feedback coming through from you. We want to read some of them right now on social media. Zavio Kilipa says, to clean the sugar industry, President Uhuru Kenyatta should stop imposing politicians to the boards who take the advantage of the same to extract honey, quote unquote, for their own political gain. Privatization of sugar industry should be given to be run by private developers. So he's advocating for privatization there.
Although private developer sounds ominous.
Yes.
I'm not sure about that. Okay, another tweet here. At Indimuli001. The solution is to reshuffle the management of the sugar companies, win the trust of farmers, so they see the importance of the crop to their livelihood.
All right, we have a final tweet as well coming through our newsrooms, and the hashtag is always Daybreak. You can also call in right now, 0719 777. Collins Mugami says, sugar sector has been grounded. It's a good idea to revive it, but the more we import sugar, the more we are killing our local industries. In another approach, let politicians stop politics on sugar sector because agriculture is our backbone, but it has been dwindled by corruption.
All right, time for final thoughts from each of our guests here in studio, and I want them to react to two things. One, the Kiunjuri and Oparanya-led task force that was government appointed, of course, and some of the recommendations, which I hear some of them have been rejected by the farmers. But in addition, the bigger picture, as the sugar sector wrangles internally, the world is changing in terms of its view on sugar. A lot of people talk about the dangers of sugar, health, and so forth. What is the sugar sector doing to ensure that sugar still remains popular in years to come? Because this obviously will lead to the feeding of farmers. I think Bwana Chairman, we'll start with you and get your final thoughts.
Okay. I think, thank you. My final thought is to let us understand that we're in a market economy. And in a market economy, you are measured by the product you have on the market. The only product that Western Kenya, Nyanza, and parts of Kwale, and now Central Rift Valley, offers to the market is sugar. So that's critical. Outside of sugar, there's nothing. You know, like there's tea in Central, coffee, and things like that. Those sides, the livelihoods really depend on sugar. And to that extent, some of us are in this industry to protect the livelihoods because a lot of people are dependent on it, they earn from it. Having said that, there are challenges. And these challenges, currently, the government, particularly the president, directed that he wants to understand what goes on in the industry. Yeah. Kilimo set up a task force. That task force, we farmers said not to it because it was not representative for farmers. We did our own. We handed over the report. Farmers, and our recommendation was, one, that there should be deregulation. Two, that there should be investigative audit of the corruption that has brought down the industry. Yeah. Three, that imports be regulated. Four, that farmers, which he raised, the role of farmers in bringing down the industry, there needs to be a strong farmer's voice to protect their own interest. Okay. Having said that, the Kiunjuri task force now wants to impose their own views because it's dominated by bureaucrats who don't seem to understand the industry. They want to zone. They want to make, these are modern day slave merchants. They want farmers to be zoned. And that we have said no. And I think we'll continue saying no to zoning. It's a free market, want farmers to deliver their cane to whoever pays them, not to be zoned again. Then finally, we believe that farmers' arrears, the case in Chemelil, farmers have not been paid. The issue of Mumias, which was a giant, needs to be revived, but not under the current management. A committee, special committee needs to be set up by an independent committee by government on the way out in Mumias. And then the rest, privatization is critical.
Give us a simple yes or no on this. So you have no regrets about the work that you did when you were leading the Kenya Sugar Board?
No regrets, but I would say I did not achieve as much as during the tenure of Honorable Kirwa when he was there. After he left, I think there was too much. The ministry was turned into a procurement ministry. To date, the Ministry of Agriculture is a procurement ministry. It's not dealing with crops. It's not dealing with the animal husbandry. It's more of a procurement agency than dealing with the farmers and livestock.
Fair enough.
And fisheries, for that matter.
Thank you. I think let me start by the Kiunjuri and Oparanya co-chaired task force. I remember sometime in 2008, we attended a press conference at Kilimo House. William Ruto was the agriculture minister then. And that very afternoon, he gave us an outline from probably a similar task force that had outlined how best they were going to move forward in the sugar sector, the privatization. What each person, each stakeholder would assume as their shareholding in each of the 5 sugar mills. The strategic investor, the farmers, the government, and cooperatives. And I think that very day he told us that the next step was to present it to the cabinet. 10 years down the line, we see another task force trying to do the same thing. The questions that must be asked is, what happened to that proposal that William Ruto, then as an agriculture minister, if at all it was presented to cabinet, what did the cabinet do about it? Then that one we will start knowing the anatomy of our problems in the sugar sector. It lacks the political and government goodwill. So,
end of story.
Irrespective of what Kiunjuri will do, and Oparanya will do, and even what Chairman Busolo did with his team, if the government does not have the interest of reviving this country's sugar sector, it will not happen. It has to be deliberate.
It has to be deliberate.
There are a lot of things that have been said about writing off the debts and all that. If you look at the budget estimates for 2019-2020, it's very silent on the sugar industry. Not even a single cent.
Big Four.
Look at Big Four.
No sugar.
Nothing in the sugar sector.
It's not under manufacturing?
Even if it's under manufacturing, if you look at the
sorts.
salient points in the manufacturing,
Nothing.
where is it? It's not there. So it tells you that whatever it is that is currently going on in the sugar sector as banded as reforms is a circus. They're not interested. They're not keen on it. 2, we say that we're a sugar deficit country, and the mills that we have are not producing enough for us to consume. And that means that we will eternally continue to import sugar to bridge the gap. Just yesterday, the 22nd country ratified the Africa Free Trade Area.
Gambia.
What does that mean to our sugar sector? Because we are going into a space where Africa will be a one market.
Open and ready for trade.
Exactly. So what does that mean? If we continue to lower our production levels, then our deficit grows. So it means we are going to import more from more.
And our commercial reprieve comes to an end in 2020 as well.
We will probably seek for another safeguard. But if you look at, because COMESA, EAC will all get into
this
the free trade area.
Yes.
What does that mean to the farmer? Third and my final point is, when the Sugar Board was taken as a directorate under the Food and Agricultural Federation, we've not heard much about it. Even as a journalist, when I seek information from the directorate, it's not there. We need, if we are serious about reviving the sugar sector, to have an independent body that has representatives of farmers, representative of the millers, and representative of the government. So that some of these issues can be discussed freely. As it is, the directorate is an office within a government office. Therefore, the voice of the farmer is not there, the voice of the millers is not there. And what you have now are policies that are formed elsewhere, then being taken for implementation. It can't work that way. It has to be a bottom-up kind of approach. And lastly, on corruption, I think we must audit how did these companies end up with all these debts. Some of them are owed to individuals who are politicians in the previous governments. How did we get there? This must be audited. Thank you.
Kipruto, final remarks.
Politicians always get the flag all the time when anything goes in trouble. No, I'm always a politician. There is no former politician.
You're always a
politician. You don't retire.
You don't retire.
I retract my statement.
Yeah, thank you. Now, the issue that we need to do if we are serious about the sugar subsector is to improve productivity, uptake research findings for purposes of increasing productivity. Number 2, involve stakeholders in whatever decisions you make. Therefore, Paranya Kiunjuri report is not complete without the input of stakeholders. Number 3, if you are thinking of sugar, go back to SDL. SDL was meant to assist you. Take away when you are doing well, you give it back to the millers when you are not doing well. SDL, Sugar Development Levy.
Okay.
So that you don't have to beg any money from the government. We used to lend to the factories. Factories pay farmers, they pay workers, and when they are doing well, they pay back to the SDN, and it was a revolving fund. You took it away, you closed in the cupboard, and now farmers are crying. Finally, you cannot look at sugar in isolation. Sugar and maize, they are co-brothers. When sugar belt is doing well, even prices of maize in Trans Nzoia and other neighboring counties, they do well. And therefore, when maize is not doing well, the sugar subsector also is affected. And therefore, we should not look at sugar in isolation. It is part of our economy and substitute to imports that we are likely to incur. COMESA is not a problem. It is how to improve our productivity locally, and we make ourselves cheaper in terms of production.
That's a good place to leave it. Very informative discussion, I must say. We certainly hope that stakeholders who are listening to this, different suggestions, different ideas from our guests and from everyone who called in, who tweeted, who SMS'd as well. Thank you. This has been Bulls and Bears on Daybreak. We take a short break. Thank you, Honorable Kirwa. Thank you, Bonyo. Fantastic debut. And thank you, Chairman Busolo, for joining us for this particular discussion. When we return,